Walking out the front door the next morning, Katherine nearly changed her mind. The idea of exploring the city suddenly lost its appeal as a blast of cold winter air brushed against the uncovered skin of her face. With her hand gripping tightly to the doorknob and one foot barely over the threshold, it wasn't too late to turn back. Pulling her shoulders up straight, the blades of her back rubbed against each other, and the feeling of standing the slightest bit taller gave her all the encouragement she needed to face the world on her own. If she opted to stay in now, she feared she'd never make it out and would become one of those old women people talked about over tea, but no one ever saw. Resolve restored, Katherine let the door close behind her, the sound of the lock tumblers clicking into place echoing in her ears. The wind blew a cold breath down her neck, and she pulled her scarf up a little higher as she surveyed her surroundings. The access lane in front of her building was all but deserted, whereas the motorway just beyond had traffic passing by with the synchronicity of speed and maneuvers seen only on European highways. Off to the left, an underground passageway appeared to emerge on the other side of the busy street. Accepting the route as the only way to the park beyond, she slipped on her black leather gloves as though pulling on an extra layer of courage. Dried leaves crackled beneath the crush of her rubber-soled walking shoes as she stepped off the front landing and made her way across the access road. A ribbon of fear tripped its way up her spine and coiled at the base of her neck as she stood at the top of the passageway looking down. Intent upon reaching her destination, she pushed away the unwarranted reaction and descended the concrete stairs. The tunnel turned out to be darker than expected. The plastic coverings of the ceiling light fixtures had all been painted black, and Katherine made a mental note to carry a flashlight in her bag, no matter the time of day she traveled. The walk through took less than 5 minutes, just enough time to get her racing heart under control. The searing breath that filled her lungs as she exited the channel was like the first gasp of a person nearly drowned, and as Katherine looked back over her shoulder, she saw everything in a new light, as though she had ventured into the darkness of her fears and come back into the world reborn. Her step was lighter, and the day was brighter. Her body felt the warmth of hope growing within till it filled her completely. A waist-high gate opened into the park and was unlocked for daytime visitors. A small brass placard that had long since tarnished announced she was about to enter Victoria Park. As she stepped onto the grounds, Katherine began to hum a long-forgotten tune that lurked in the recesses of her brain. Waves of joy bubbled up from her core as her muted singing morphed into laughter, and when her quiet chuckle became full and throaty, she promptly swallowed it back until it came out as a mere squeak of a giggle. Musical Tourette's, indeed, she chuckled to herself. The park bustled with activity due to the rare, warm winter weather. Couples strolled the cement pathways, arm in arm, soaking up the sunshine as kids ran about playing a Scottish version of tag. Dog owners played fetch the stick as frisbees zoomed overhead in every direction. Katherine stood motionless, taking it all in before opting for a more solitary experience as she turned to the paths on her left. Beautifully landscaped grounds and the mystique of Scotland began to awaken something within her veins. The walkway she chose wound around into a secluded garden of sorts where benches rested in various locations, waiting for lovers to make use of them while sharing a bit of romance. Voices carried on the wind to where she stood, and a shard of curiosity pushed through her. As she ventured onto a narrow footpath between two high rock walls, the sounds of conversation grew louder until she emerged onto the edge of an area containing a moderately sized fish pond surrounded by concrete walkways. Her whimsical brain marked it as the perfect place for secret meetings or a lover's rendezvous, except, at the moment, it was teeming with people. If she stayed behind the shelter of the rock wall, Katherine found she could observe them without being seen herself. It was obvious she had stumbled upon a sort of high-fashion shoot. Tripods were posted in various locations and scattered about the paved walkways. Cloth-walled changing stations had been erected with racks of elegant garments positioned outside. In the middle of all the commotion, the man wielding a camera was the one thing to catch and hold her attention more than anything else. On top of his bent head, a pair of expensive sunglasses rested, nestled within the loose waves of disarray. With the sun shining directly down on him, she could easily see his hair was the darkest shade of ebony, a black Celt in the truest sense.